In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. We give thanks to you, Lord, for this day and all the blessings we have enjoyed. We pray that you will favor the work we accomplish in this online class and grant us the fortitude, patience, and bravery to overcome any difficulties that may arise. Bless us and our professors with the insight to benefit from one another. Please bestow upon us a discerning intellect, retentive memory, technique, and ease in learning, the clarity to comprehend, and an abundance of grace in our communication. We ask all of this in the name of Jesus. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Okay, thank you, Kian, for that nice prayer. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Miss.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Miss.
Miss.
Are you in school right now?
No, Miss.
No,
You
Miss.
are at home.
Yes, Miss.
Yes, Miss.
Okay. So, next meeting, mag-face-to-face na ta ha? To continue with our discussion sa process costing. Okay, I would like to take up with you my illustrative problems for the quantity schedule and the EP schedule. So let me share with you my screen. Mhm. Okay, so I'd like to take up with you these 6 independent cases. So in case A and case B, there is no work in process beginning. But in case C, D, E, and F, there is work in process beginning. So in process costing, you need to prepare the monthly cost of production report. So in this cost of production report, the first step is the preparation of the quantity schedule. And I shorten quantity schedule as QS. So in making the quantity schedule, be guided by the equation sources must be equal to the targets. Okay, sources must be equal to the targets. So when we say sources, it answers the question where the units come from. And when you say T for target, that is knowing their destination. Or it answers the question, what happened to the units assigned this month to be worked on? So going back to the sources, there are 3 possible sources of where the units assigned this month to be worked on came from. So they may come from the work in process beginning, the units that were started last month in this department but were not completed yet last month. So they are still in process at the end of last month. So okay, still in process man, they have to continue working on them this month. So that's one source. The units assigned to be worked on this month is coming from last month's production in this department. Another possible source are the units started just this month in this department, and we call it as SIP, started into process, SIP. So started into process are the units just started this month in this department. Gisugdan pagtrabaho in this department karon lang buwana. As to what happened to this unit started this month, either part siya sa finished units or part siya sa unfinished units or the work in process end. Another possible source would be the units received from previous department, RPD, received from previous department. So if your department is a subsequent department, then it has a previous department. So like for example, if the company has 3 production departments, namely Department A, Department B, and Department C, B and C are the subsequent departments. A has no previous department, therefore we consider Department A as the first department or the initiating or original department. Kung unsay mahuman ni Department A, that will be transferred out to the next department for another processing. So, ang nahuman ni A will be transferred out to Department B. So, ang nadawat ni B will be reported as received from Department A or received from previous department, or we call it as the units transferred in or UTI, no? Units transferred in. So kung naay transferred out, naasay transferred in. So ang transferred out ni Department A, maurasad ang transferred in ni Department B. Okay, posible sad nga during the current month, walay gi-forward si Department A kang B. Kay wala pa man sad sila'y nahuman. So in that case, kung walay nahuman si Department A, kanang F and T, finished and transferred out, would be 0. And that is why wala say RPD si Department B. Kung si Department B naay nahuman o gi-transfer out to C, then ang F and T ni Department B automatically becomes the RPD ni Department C. RPD or the units transferred in ni Department C. Okay, so those are the 3 possible sources from last month's production or from last month's production or from work in process beginning. Another source will be from current production, or that is what we identify as SIP, started into process. And the last one will be RPD, and that is only included sa quantity schedule of a subsequent department. Walay RPDC initiating or original department. Kay wala man siya PD. Wala man siya previous department. So those are the 3 sources as to where the units to be worked on this month is coming from. So the next question now is, what happened to those units assigned this month to be worked on in this department? So either part siya sa finished units or part siya sa unfinished units. So this T for the target refers to the destination. Asa padulong ang katong atong gitrabaho in this department this month. So there are only two possible targets. Either they will be part of the completed or finished units, or they will be part of the unfinished units. So for the finished units, that is subdivided further into two: finished and transferred out to the next department for another processing, or it can be transferred out to the bodega once the finished product has been completed in all the departments. Or they may be part of the finished or completed units but still on hand. Wala pa move out. Wala pa transfer out to the next department or to the bodega. They are already complete, they are already finished, but still on hand in this department. Wala pa transfer out. The other one would be the unfinished units. Kining atong unfinished units is the one reported as your work in process end. That is your work in process end. Meaning to say that that is your unit still in process at the end of this month in this department. So going back to our quantity schedule. So in case A, there is no work in process beginning. So with case B, there is no work in process beginning. So all units were started this month in this department. So ang given, there are 208,000 units started and placed into process this month in this department. And 36,000 units of that are still in process at the end of the period because they were said to be 1/3 completed. So to get the missing item, which is the F and T, what you're going to do is deduct the IPE from the total sources, the total SIP of 208,000, and you'll get a balance of 172,000 as your finished and transferred out. So notice there is only one source, and that is represented by SIP, or kung subsequent department siya, that represents your RPD. Of the 208,000 units, 36,000 are still in process at the end of this month. The remaining 172,000 were completed or finished and transferred out. So total sources is equal to the sum of the total targets. Okay, case B. Ang unknown sa case B is this one, the one marked red. So there is one source with 3 targets. So from the total sources, which is your units received from previous department, 120,000 units, of which 90,000 were finished and transferred out, 24,000 are still in process at the end of this month. So the balance, so 120,000 minus 114,000 equals your FOH of 6,000. For case C, there are 2 groups of work in process beginning. 56,000 units were started last month since they were already one-fourth completed. One-fourth pa sa 56,000 ang natrabaho last month. There is another group of 48,000 units that were started last month, but they were 5/6 completed. Okay, so what is unknown is the SIP or the RPD. So what you're going to do is get the total targets by adding F&T, IPE, the two groups of IPE. So 102,000 plus 30,000 plus 12,000 equals 144,000. That's the total targets. Minus the two given sources, minus 56,000 and minus 48,000. So the balance would be 40,000, which is our SIP. For case D, okay, ang unknown is RPD. So the targets are complete. So add F&T plus FOH plus IPE. So our targets would be 156,000. So if the total targets is 156,000, deduct the only source of 60,000. So 156 minus 60,000 will give you a balance of 96,000 as your receive from previous department. For case E, unknown ang IPB. So get the total targets by adding F&T and IPE. So we have a total of 200,000 units, of which 80,000 is the SIP or RPD. So 200,000 minus 80,000 will give you that balance of 120,000 as IPB. For case F, kani ang given sa problem, kini nga data or information. So it says SIP is 58,000, F&T is 82,000. The work in process at the end is only 40% of the work in process at the beginning, and their stages of completion are 30% and 60% respectively. So only one source is given, only one target is given. But there are other sources to be included in the quantity schedule, and that is the work in process beginning. That's why I have here the IPB or the work in process beginning under quantity schedule, but that is unknown. There is also a work in process at the end. That's why you have here IPE in your quantity schedule. So based on the given information, there are two sources with two targets. So let's formulate the equation so that we would know how many units were started last month and how many units are still in process at the end of this month. So let X be your work in process beginning. So following the equation, sources should always be equal to the targets. Our sources here includes work in process beginning and the SIP. So let X be your IPB. So that's your X, your work in process beginning, plus the SIP given at 58,000 equals the target of F&T 82,000 plus another target, which is the work in process end, which is said to be 40% of the work in process beginning, which is your X. So that is the equation. So apply your background knowledge in algebra to solve for X. So take note of our equation in case F. X plus 58,000 equals 82,000 plus 40% of x. Solve for x. So what is the value of your x? Or how many units is your x?
40,000, Miss.
Correct. 40,000 units ang IPB, which is our x. So you can now solve for your IPE. Your IPE is 40% of x. So 40% of 40,000 equals what?
16,000, Miss.
Correct. So 16,000 is our IPE. So that's why on the quantity schedule, I placed here IPB of 40,000 based on the result uh, of our equation and solving it algebraically. Then your IPE is 16,000. SIP and FRT are already given. Now notice class, I placed a dark horizontal line separating the sources from the target. So I have the line above F and T to separate the sources from the target. So always maintain the equality of the two sides of your equation. Sources should always be equal to your targets. Meaning the total sources should always be equal to the total targets. So now you know how to prepare the quantity schedule, isn't it? Are there any questions?
No, Miss.
Okay, so that's step one. You have to master the preparation of the quantity schedule because that is very, very important. The moment you got wrong with your quantity schedule, everything that follows will also be wrong. No? It has a domino effect. Kung mahagbong sa sinugdanan, ang katong gasunod, mahagbong pud. So everything is wrong. So dapat ma-master ninyo ang pag-prepare sa quantity schedule, which is the first step in the making of the monthly cost of production report. So the second step would be the computation of the equivalent production. When you say equivalent production, it is not equal to the physical units, but rather it is considered as the equivalent number of units produced or the equivalent number of completed units kung pilay na trabaho sa department. So this quantity schedule, just like the EP schedule, they will not be reported in peso amounts, but they will be reported in terms of how the output of that department is being measured. So like for example, even if sugar is an ingredient or a material used in the making of the finished product, the way the sugar is measured is not the same as the way the finished product is measured. So what you will show in the quantity schedule will be the measurement used in the final output of your department, and not really the how the input of that department is measured, but rather in terms of their output sa ilang mahuman, no? Dili sa material, dili sa measurement sa material nga gigamit pag-produce, paghimo sa finished product. Okay, so to know the in computing for the EP, you need to refer to your quantity schedule. You need to refer to your quantity schedule. So for instance, I'd like to go back to my to a particular example. Okay, this one. In the quantity schedule, both the work in process beginning and the work in process end will have parenthetical disclosure. In other words, there is a parenthetical notation. This serves as your clue as to how many columns will you provide for the EP computation. Now, if the parenthetical notation would look like this, like the fraction completed or the percentage completed, it did not disclose to which cost element it applies. Does it apply only to materials? Does it apply only to labor? Or does it apply only to overhead? So if not stated to which cost element the fraction or the percentage applies, the assumption is that it is applied uniformly or evenly. So you can say that the 14,000 units that were started last month were 25% or one-fourth complete as to materials, one-fourth or 25% complete as to labor, one-fourth or 25% complete as to overhead. So parihara ang percentage of completion for each cost element. Now, there are instances when the parenthetical notation would look like this. It would say all M, meaning 100% complete as to materials, 2/5 complete as to conversion cost. So the percentage applied to labor is the same percentage applied to overhead. Whereas if the parenthetical notation would look like this, so the percentage applied to materials is not the same as the percentage applied to labor, nor is it the same as the percentage applied to overhead. So the percentage applied to each cost element varies, or there is uneven application of materials, labor, and overhead. So if the parenthetical notation would look like this, there is uniform application of the fraction or percentage of percentage completed or applied to each cost element. That's why you need to provide only one column to compute your EP. So in this case, your EP for materials is the same as the EP for labor and the same also as the EP for overhead. So you need to provide only one column for that. Pero kung ganahan kang maghago-hago sa imong kaugalingon, ganahan kang magpalangan-langan, pwede sad nga you provide one column for materials, another column for labor, then another column for overhead. But in the end, you will realize nga all of these three cost elements will have the same EP. So it's just a waste of time and effort on your part when you can get the same EP just for solving it and show it in one column. But if the parenthetical notation would be like this, since the percentage applied to materials is not the same percentage applied to conversion cost, this is your clue that you need to provide two separate columns for the EP computation. One column to get the EP for materials, another column to get the EP for labor and overhead, also known as conversion costs. So two columns ang i-provide for the EP computation if the parenthetical disclosure would look like this. But if the parenthetical disclosure would be like this, then you will provide one column for each cost element. So your EP for materials is not the same as the EP for labor and is not the same as your EP for overhead. That's why you provide three separate columns for the EP calculation. Okay, so let us go back to our previous example. Okay, this one. If the quantity schedule has no work in process beginning, the EP for weighted average will be the same as your EP under first in, first out. So as mentioned in chapter 2, if the company is using process costing to accumulate the costs of a particular process or department, there are only two alternative methods to be used in accounting for such cost incurred by the department or process. Either the company uses weighted average or it uses the first in, first out method. Kana rang duha ang kapilian. Imposible nga magamit ang duha at the same time. Usa ra gyud ka method ang pilion sa company. Either they will use weighted average or they will use first in, first out method. So to get the EP under weighted average, just follow the rule. Multiply all completed or finished units by 100%. The unfinished units will be multiplied by the given fraction completed or percentage completed. So for case A, how many units will be multiplied by 100%? How many units were completed? How many units were finished?
172,000, miss.
Correct. Since in your quantity schedule, the finished units is 172,000, then that is the one that will be multiplied by 100%. So 172,000 times 100% equals 172,000. Add your EP in IPE. So multiply the given fraction completed by the IPE of 36,000 equals, what is 1/3 times 36,000?
12,000, miss.
12,000.
So we will add your EP in IPE of 12,000. Bring down the total. So your EP under weighted average is
184,000, miss.
correct, 184,000. Okay, to get the EP under first in, first out, so we start with your EP under weighted average, 184,000 minus your EP in IPB. Nya, wala man tay IPB sa quantity schedule. That is why your EP under first in, first out will be the same as the EP under weighted average method. So is that understood?
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
Okay, next. Sa case B, there is no work in process beginning. Therefore, expect that your EP under weighted average will be equal to your EP under first in, first out. My first question now is, how many units shall be multiplied by 100%? How many units must be multiplied by 100%?
98,000, miss.
90,000 only? 90,000 ra ba ang completed? Completed or finished? Pila man? All the completed or finished units must be multiplied by 100%. The question is, what number will be multiplied by 100%?
96,000, miss.
Correct. Both the 90,000 and the 6,000. So a total of 96,000 is multiplied by 100%. They were finished man. Both of them are finished. Maunang i-multiply siya outright by 100%. Okay, let's add your EP in IPE. What is 30% times 24,000?
7,200, miss.
Okay, 7,200. Bring down the total. What is your EP under weighted average?
103,200, miss.
Okay, 103,200. Wala man tay IPB. So, your finished units will be multiplied by 100%. The unfinished units will be multiplied by 30%. So your EP will be the same as that of the weighted average method. Okay, next. For case D, to get the EP under weighted average, we will multiply the finished units of 48,000 by 100%. We will also multiply the FOH of 12,000 by 100%. Add your EP in IPE. So multiply 2/3 by 96,000 equals what?
64,000, miss.
Okay, you will get 64,000. Bring down the total. So your EP under weighted average for case D is
124,000, miss.
correct, 124,000 units. So sa pag-compute sa EP under first in, first out, your starting point is your EP under weighted average, the 124,000. So in other words, you will have the same computation sa weighted average. Pero kay naa may IPB, then the EP in IPB will be subtracted. So because that was applied already last, so 1/6 times 60,000 equals
10,000, Miss.
10,000. So deduct 10,000 because that was already given last month. So 124,000 nga EP under weighted average minus your EP in IPB nga 10,000 equals your EP under first in first out, which is
114,000.
114,000. Okay, I want you to do the same for case C, E, and F. Compute the EP for weighted average and EP for first in, first out for case C, E, and F. Compare your answers with the ones I have shown on the screen for C, E, and F. Kanang yellow. Ano atong EP for each method. Gets niyo, class?
Yes, miss.
Ang uban, wa may tingog-tingog, uy. Magbungulay na lang taani, no? Saon. How will you know that you do not know if you do not solve? Di ba? Okay, so I will show her the correct answers. Okay, it's there. Tanawa pareha batag answer. So what I have introduced to you is method 1 of the method 1 of computing EP for both weighted average and first in, first out. Sa weighted average class, there is no other way of computing EP. Just follow the rule. All finished units will be multiplied by 100%. The unfinished units will be multiplied by the given fraction completed or the given percentage completed. So method 1 is our shortcut method in calculating the EP for weighted average and first in, first out method. But for the first in, first out method, there is an alternative method of computing EP under first in, first out. Ang wala ray alternative method, si weighted average ra. Just follow the rule. Now, all finished units will be multiplied by 100%. The unfinished units will be multiplied by the percentage of completion or the fraction completed. So now I would like to introduce the use of method 2. Okay, I'd like to use the data in case D to show you the alternative way of computing EP under first in, first out. So sa method 2, your starting point will be your F and T. So in the quantity schedule, our F and T is 48,000. Analyze how many units of the F and T were started last month, how many units of the F and T were started this month. So if you look at the quantity schedule sa case D, the unit started last month is what we call the work in process beginning. So there were 60,000 units started last month. Compare it with your finished and transferred out of 48,000. So ang IPB is greater than your F and T. Therefore, our conclusion is that all of the F and T were started when? All of the F and T, all of the 48,000 were started last
Last
month.
month.
So So part siya sa 60,000. So tanang F&T nga 48,000 were started last month. Ang gi-work last month is 1/6. To complete it this month, apply the remaining or the complement, which is 5/6. So 48,000 that were started last month, apply the remaining 5/6 to complete it this month. So you get 40,000. So ang 48,000 nga F&T, part siya sa 60. So 60 minus 48, napay balance nga 12,000. Kanang balance nga 12,000 is equal to your FOH. Therefore, all of the FOH in the quantity schedule were started last month. So kay started last month man, gihatag na ang 1/6 nga portion sa materials, labor, and overhead. To complete it this month, apply the remaining 5/6 equals 10,000. For the IPE, so ang atong F&T ug ang FOH ni total of 60,000, which is your IPB. Therefore, kaning atong IPE nga 96,000 were started this month. So diri gikuha sa RPD nga bag-o pang gisugdan og trabaho this month in this department. So all of the IPE were coming from RPD. So kay gisugdan this month, wala lang nahuman. How do you know nga wa mahuman? Kutob raman siya. Ang natrabaho this month is only 2/3. So 96,000 times 2/3, the equivalent units produced is 64,000. So it remains as IPE kay wa pa man kaabot sa 100% stage. 2/3 ra siya kutob, 67% ra siya kutob. So bring down the total of these three figures. That will bring you to your EP under first in first out of 114,000. So which is the same as our EP under first in first out using method 1. Okay, using method 1. Okay, let's take up case E. Sa case E, your IPB is greater than your F&T. So there is a portion of the IPB that is part of the IPE. So going back with our F&T of 96,000, gamay man ang F&T kaysa IPB. Therefore, our conclusion is that all of the F&T, all of the 96,000 were started last month. Started last month, si 96,000 nga F&T times kay nasugdan man last month and 40% was given last month. To complete it this month, apply the remaining 60% equals 57,600. For the IPE in the quantity schedule, ang atong total IPE in the quantity schedule is 104,000. Napamay nahibilin sa IPB. Diba? IPB of 120,000 minus the F&T of 96,000. So do na pay balance nga 24,000. Kanang 24,000 sa IPB is part of your IPE. So kanang 24,000 nga parts sa 104,000 were started last month. So pila man ang percentage of work done this month sa 24,000 units? So it would be percentage of completion at the end, 70%, minus the percentage of completion last month, 40%. Therefore, 30% ang work done this month to the 24,000 units that were started last month, gitiwas this month, mao gihapon wa kahuman kay kutob ra siya sa 70% stage. Ang nahuman last month, 40%. Gitrabaho ang 30% this month. So ang total percentage nga naabot ni 24,000 units is only 70%. Wa pa gyud siya kaabot sa 100% stage. That is why it is still in process at the end of this month. So from the total IPE of 104,000 minus the 24,000 that were started last month, so 104,000 minus 24,000 equals 80,000 units. So 80,000 units of the IPE, 80,000 sa 104,000 were started this month. And what happened? Nasugdan pagtrabaho this month, wala gihapon nahuman kay kutob ra siya sa 70% stage. So ang percentage of work done this month on the 80,000 units, gisugdan this month, pero kutob ra sa 70% stage ang iyang nakabot. So ang iyang work done this month is only 70%. So 80,000 times 70% equals 56,000. So add 57,600, 7,200, and 56,000 will give you your EP under first in, first out using method 2, 120,800. So in method 1, we get the same answer, the same EP under first in, first out, which is the 120,800. Okay, let's have case F. Sa quantity schedule, ang F&T is 82,000. Ang IPB is 40,000. So this time, mas dako ang F&T kaysa IPB. So that means all the 40,000 units started last month were finished and transferred out this month. So part si 40,000 sa 82,000 nga F&T. So sa 82,000 nga F&T, tanang 40,000 units nga started last month were given 40% this month to complete it this month. So our equivalent units produced is 16,000 units. Deduct the 40,000 that were started last month from 82,000, you get a balance of 42,000. So in other words, 42,000 sa F&T were started this month. Gisugdan this month, unsay nahitabo, nahuman sab this month. Kay nasugdan og nahuman this month, therefore the percentage of work done this month is 100%. That's why you have there 42,000. Ang IPE in the quantity schedule is 16,000. Yang katong 40,000 nga nasugdan last month, nahuman naman last month, part siya sa 82,000. Therefore, kining still in process at the end of this month na 16,000, that is taken from 58,000. Meaning started just this month, and what happened? Wa gihapon nahuman kay kutob ra siya sa 30%. So all of the IPE nga 16,000 were started this month, wala lang nahuman kay kutob ra siya sa 30% stage. So 16,000 times 30% equals 4,800. So add these three figures and you will get your EP under first in, first out of 62,800, which is the same answer using method 1. Okay, what about case C? Okay, kamunay mo solve for method 2 to get the equivalent EP under first in, first out. Use method 2. Di. Saan man nga dugi eh. So did you get the same computation as shown on the screen? Are there any questions, class, with regards to method 2 of the alternative way of computing EP using first in, first out?
I have a question, ma'am.
Yes.
Just to clarify, for the started this month, the first one, Miss, where did the 28,000 come from, Miss?
The 28,000, this one?
Yes, Miss.
Okay. You will notice in the quantity schedule, we have 56,000 and 48,000 units as IPB. Lain-lain lang siya o fraction completed. So 56 plus 48, you have a total of 104,000 units that were started last month. But your F&T is only 102,000. So our conclusion is that all of your F&T were started last month. All of the 102,000 were started last month. So 56,000 times 1/4 man ang gihatag last month. So to complete it this month, apply the remaining 3/4. So you'll get 42,000. Sa 48,000, so di ba 102,000 nga F&T, i-minus ang 56,000, do na pay balance nga 46,000. Kining 46,000 were started last month, gikan na dire sa 48. Di ba? So, do na pay 2,000 sa 48,000 that you have to account for. So, kanang 46,000 appeal sa F&T. So, 5,600 man ang gi-apply last month. To complete it this month, apply the remaining 1,600 equals 7,667. So, do na pay portion si 48,000 nga nahibilin. So 48,000 minus 46, dunay balance nga 2,000. Tuwa siya na appeal sa IPE. Ngano man, kay last month, gi-apply ang 5/6. For this month, kining 2,000 will be taken from started last month. Pero, so, to get the work done this month, sa 2,000 nga nasugdan last month, it will be stage of completion at the end, which is 1/3, times stage of completion last month, which is 5/6. If you have difficulty getting the difference between the two fractions, you can convert the fraction into percentage to simplify the computation. So the result is negative 1,000. So ang atong IPE, duha sad ni siya kabuok. So 30,000 ang first group, which is 1/3 completed. So part katong 2,000 nga started last month nga gikan sa 48,000, diri na siya na appeal sa 30,000 nga IPE. So the 2,000 that were started last month, the remaining 28,000 sa 30,000 is the one started this month, times the work done this month for the 30,000, which is 1/3. So kining last nga IPE nga 12,000 is coming from the unit started this month. Started this month pero wala gihapon na human kay kutobra siya sa 1/4 stage equals 3,000. So is that understood?
Yes, Miss. Thank you.
Any other questions? So adto ta sa exercise 4-2. Exercise 4-2. You are provided with the EP under weighted average and the EP under first in, first out. You're also given the costs last month for materials, labor, and overhead, identified in the problem as beginning inventory costs or cost last month. So working beginning, the peso amount of your working process beginning represents the cost incurred last month. Then we have the current period costs. So the material cost this month is 27,000. The labor cost this month is 17,360. And the overhead this month is 42,240. So using weighted average, compute the cost per equivalent unit produced. And letter B, using first in, first out, compute the cost per equivalent unit produced. Now, highlight the second statement. All material is added at the beginning. Mugawas ganin ang statement. Then in your quantity schedule, both IPB and IPE will have 100% for materials. So in the month that those units were started, sa buwan nga gisugdan sila pagtrabaho, diha anang buwan na gihatag completely ang materials. So that's the meaning there of all material is added at the beginning or start of the process. So this exercise number 2 illustrates the calculation of the weighted average unit cost of materials, average unit cost of labor, and the average unit cost of overhead. And at the same time, we are also required to compute the unit cost of materials under first in, first out, the unit cost of labor under first in, first out, and the unit cost of overhead under first in, first out. So to answer exercise 4-2, dili lang nako i-indicate ha. Exercise 4-2, then it would be the difference between the EUP under weighted average and the EUP under first in, first out is your EP in IPB. That is your EP in IPB. So I place here EP under weighted average minus the EP under first in, first out. So we have materials, labor, then overhead. So sa EP under weighted average, you have 80,000. Sa labor is 76,000. Sa overhead, given at 75,000. Okay. Minus your EP under first in, first out. 60,000 for materials, 62,000 for labor, and then 66,000 for overhead. So get the difference. So the difference is your EP in IPB. So for materials, that's 20,000. For labor, pila man na, 14,000. Then for overhead, that's 15 minus 6, that's 9,000, isn't it? Okay, so now we can come up with your average or the unit cost under weighted average. So to get the average unit cost of materials, average unit cost of materials, the formula will be material cost last month 9,800 plus material cost this month 27,000 divided by wait, 9,800 plus 27,000. Then divide it by your EP for materials under weighted average, which is 80,000. Okay, so pila ni? That would be how much?
0.46.
Okay, that's 0.46 per EUP, equivalent unit produced. If you are going to get the unit cost of materials under first in, first out, para makita dayon ninyo ang difference sa formula. So for materials, it would be, okay, material cost last month, material cost this month, which is 27,000 divided by EP for materials under first in, first out, which is 60,000. Will give you how much? $45?
Yes, miss.
So 45 cents per equivalent unit produced. Okay, do the same thing for labor and overhead. Did you get the same answer for labor?
Yes, Miss.
What about the overhead? What is the average unit cost of overhead under weighted average?
0.63, Miss.
Correct. 0.63 per equivalent unit produced. Whereas ang unit cost of overhead under first in first out is 0.56.
56, miss.
No,
64, Miss.
correct. 0.64 per equivalent unit produced. Gets niyo, class? Sa weighted average, inyong i-average ang cost last month ug ang cost this month. So like to get the average unit cost of overhead, it would be overhead cost last month 5,010 plus the overhead cost this month 42 to 40 divided by EP for overhead under weighted average 75,000 equals 63 centavos per equivalent unit produced. So to get the unit cost of overhead under first in first out, it would be overhead cost this month 42 to 40 divided by EP for overhead under first in first out 66,000 equals 0.64 per equivalent unit produced. So is that clear?
Yes, Miss.
Yes, Miss.
So next week, mag face-to-face na ta on ano to? Tuesday, di ba? Schedule ta for face-to-face. So we will be in the classroom to continue our discussion for chapter 4. So we will answer na exercises 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that is all for today. Thank you for joining this session. Enjoy your lunch. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.